Pet Shop Boys didn't hold anything back when it came to It's a Sin.
When I look back upon my life, it's always with a sense of shame.
Now that is a loaded opening line right from the off. It's a Sin wasn't just another hit, it was a confession, a call-out and a statement all in one. It's also a fantastically written song. So let's get into how that song was born, the controversy it stirred up, and why decades later it's still maybe more relevant than ever.
It's a sin.
So where did this song come from? Well, funnily enough, it wasn't written specifically about being gay. It had a broader scope than that, and at the time of writing, they didn't give it nearly as much thought as their audience did. It was quite interesting because people took it really seriously. The song was written in about 15 minutes and was intended as a camp joke, and it wasn't something I consciously took very seriously. Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe were hardly new to the scene when they came up with It's a Sin. They'd already had a #1 hit with West End Girls in 1986, of course, but this song would push them to new heights. They'd actually been sitting on this song for years. An early demo was done in 1984 with producer Bobby Orlando, but they didn't record a full version at that point.
Everything I've ever done, everything I ever do, every place I've ever been, everywhere I'm going to, it's a sin.
And they knew this song was going to need a massive production to realise its full potential, and they just didn't have the resources back then, so they waited. He might be flippant about the song not being serious, but it does tackle some really heavy issues. Tennant says the song was inspired by his Catholic school days, and it's true that Tennant is gay and was back then, but he didn't specifically write the song about his sexuality. It was more about how, in his experience, the Catholic Church repressed, well, everything. Having been brought up as a Catholic, you thought everything was a sin. You're told that thinking about it is as bad as doing it. He's spoken about how the school used Catholic guilt and fear of divine punishment as tools, and he wrote a song about it. And what a song it is. By 1987, with a big record label and some success behind them, Pet Shop Boys were finally ready. And this song became the lead single from their second album, actually. They wanted something massive, something to showcase what they could really do. So they rejoined with producers Stephen Hague and Julian Mendelsohn and brought in engineer Andy Richards, who would be instrumental in programming all of the synths you hear in the song. And speaking of synths, that's another way that this song was such a landmark. It was a massive part of the sort of second wave of synth pop. The genre was already massive in the 80s, but by 87 the big acts were starting to change direction. It's a Sin was part of a resurgence of synth pop, bringing in more layered production and combining social commentary with pop accessibility. And they really did throw everything they could think of at this song. For a start, that NASA countdown at the beginning.
20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds, guidance is reached.
Obviously, it's full of synths as well, but they also added in ambient recordings of churches, choir effects, and all sorts. And thanks to the skills of Andy Richards, everything had its place. The production, in my opinion, is flawless. The song has a massive presence, but nowhere does it ever feel cluttered or too much. It makes you feel like you're inside a cathedral, about to be judged, which really is the point. By the way, if you like my channel and want even more, I post behind the scenes stuff and I chat to all my supporters one-on-one over on my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/musicmongoose. So let's have a look at the lyrics of this song because they are quite important. Tennant managed something rare and quite hard to do with these lyrics. He put his thoughts into lyrics exactly as he felt them. Normally, things need to be cut down or turned into metaphor or fit into a song, but not in this case.
When I look back upon my life, it's always with a sense of shame. I've always been the one to blame.
You see, he cuts straight to the point and describes exactly how he feels, and that resonated with fans everywhere. The second verse and chorus really build on the theme, and I think this is really where it became an anthem for anyone who's ever been pushed down or oppressed.
At school they taught me how to be so pure in thought and word and deed. They didn't quite succeed. For everything I long to do, no matter when or where or who, has one thing in common too. It's a sin.
And if you've tried your hand at songwriting, I'm sure you can appreciate how succinctly he puts his thoughts in this song. And that line, no matter when or where or who, really sums up his experience at the hands of his teachers. And the second half of the song goes on to ask for forgiveness from God, talking about his feelings of shame and guilt at his sins as he was taught to think of them. It's easy to see how this became an anthem for the queer community. There's a universal dimension to this song, and a particularly queer reading, something listeners picked up on strongly in the 80s especially. It resonates so strongly with the discrimination they faced through the decades, both religious and societal. It didn't need to say gay explicitly, the feeling was already there. It's sort of like a rallying cry. The funny thing is though, Tennant never envisioned it becoming a queer anthem when he wrote it. He thought of it as a camp, almost jokey statement than anything else. In fact, he didn't publicly come out as gay until 1994, a whole 7 years after the song was released. It just goes to show that music can take on a life of its own. The song shot to number 1 in the UK in June 1987. In the US it cracked the top 10, and it ended up being one of the best-selling singles in Europe that year. Pet Shop Boys went global, but more importantly than the sales, it showed that pop can be personal and political without losing mass appeal. You could have huge drums, big choruses, and lyrics about shame, judgment, sexuality. It wasn't safe, but it stuck, because it was an outlet that people really needed at the time. The timing of the song was particularly important.
I had friends who were dying of AIDS, and it was something that had a profound effect at the time. There's an incredible contrast between being a pop star and visiting your friend in St Mary's Hospital, Paddington, dying.
I bet.
It's a Sin was released in 1987 as the public became more aware of the AIDS crisis, and this context really matters. The song became a kind of soundtrack to the sense of hypocrisy and stigma that the queer community was receiving. And one of the best parts of the song is the ending. They recite a passage of Latin, which translates to, "I confess to Almighty God and to my brothers that I have sinned in thought, word, action, and omission my fault, my extreme fault." That's actually part of the Confiteor prayer. Hope I'm saying that right. It's commonly recited in Catholic schools as part of Mass. Tennant was an altar boy as well as a student in Catholic school. He would have had this drilled into him for years. And imagine the impact that has on an impressionable young mind. I think this is a great example of how this song injected intelligence into pop music. I mean, who else was reciting Latin prayers in an anti-authoritarian banger? And as usual, in anything that rattles the cage, controversy wasn't far behind. They got criticism from all angles. Not surprisingly, the clergy wasn't really impressed. Nobody likes having their dirty laundry aired out. One priest in Tennant's hometown felt the need to try and put a positive spin on things. The local parish priest in Newcastle delivered a sermon on it and reflected on how the church changed from the promise of a ghastly hell to the message of love. I imagine that probably came off as too little too late for those that were there. Surprisingly, possibly the biggest pushback came in the form of plagiarism accusations. Jonathan King accused them of heavily borrowing from the song Wild World by Cat Stevens. He later went as far as to create a parody of It's a Sin using the lyrics to Wild World.
If you wanna leave, take good care. Hope you got a lot of nice things to wear. 'Cause a lot of nice things turn bad out there. It's a world.
And one little fact about all of this, Jonathan King was actually a producer who rejected an early demo of It's a Sin. Take from that what you will. Cat Stevens actually wrote to Tennant and Lowe in support rather than joining King's accusation, which tells you everything. But how is it still relevant today? In 2021, when Russell T Davies used It's a Sin as the title and emotional backbone of his TV series highlighting the horrors of the AIDS pandemic, the song found fresh meaning again. Today's generation of LGBTQ+ community were inspired, just like that of the 80s. And this shows two things, I think. One, the class of this song, that it's held up after decades. And two, that we as a society still carry some of the same issues we did all the way back then. It's a Sin shows that pop can provoke. It brought private shame into the public space. It challenged religious structures and brought homoerotic undertones to mainstream radio in an age where it wasn't really tolerated. The song influenced the way later artists could speak about guilt and sexuality and religion in pop music. It sort of gave them permission to break the mold of catchy jingles and nothing lyrics. You could tackle real issues and still reach the masses. And actually, 17 years earlier, the Kinks did a similar thing with their song Lola. That turned out to be a super important song too. And I've actually made a video on that one. You can watch it over there.